Hello, and welcome to the April 2024 edition of Florida by the Numbers. I'm Sheridan Morby, Senior Research Economist for the Florida Chamber Foundation. In this month's edition, I will be walking you through the latest updates on Florida's labor market, inflation trends, international trade, and more. Before we dive into some analysis, the FloridaScorecard.org gives us high-level insights into the latest economic metrics for Florida. Net new jobs, open jobs, unemployment, consumer sentiment, and housing statistics are all tracked on the scorecard, in addition to hundreds of other state and county level metrics. Now, let's get started reviewing what's new in our labor market. Employment is nearing 9.9 million jobs in Florida, with an additional 10,400 jobs added this month. This monthly gain comes after a slight decline in jobs last month, proving Florida's continued labor market resilience. The annual growth in jobs was 2.2%, slower than last month, but still faster than the national job growth. 8 of the 10 major industries added jobs in March. Education and health services once again had the largest number and percentage in job growth, as jobs in healthcare remain the most in-demand occupations in Florida. The information industry, including jobs in telecommunications and publishing, saw a slight decline. Professional and business services, which ranges from jobs in administration to legal and accounting occupations, saw the largest decline. Florida's labor market continues to see workforce shortages. For every 100 open jobs in Florida, there are 80 Floridians looking for work. These shortages vary by county, with gaps as big as 67 unemployed people for every 100 open jobs in Miami-Dade County. In Hernando County, there are far more unemployed people than open jobs, but also a high number of net outbound commuters. This combination of high unemployment and high outbound commuting points not to challenge but opportunity. With large workforce gaps at the state level, there is a ready and available workforce in Hernando County and many counties like it. The FloridaScorecard.org shows the workforce gaps in every county, so be sure to visit to see what workforce challenges and opportunities are present in your area. Taking a look at the single-family housing market, closed sales were down over 10% in March compared to a year ago. This lower level of sales is likely due to stubborn interest rates and is just a continuation of the trends of the past few years. The fairly steady median sale prices, however, are a disruption to the trend of skyrocketing prices up to this point. Inventory continues to rise, meaning that those prices should remain steady in the coming months, and we will be closely watching to see how sales respond. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out our Executive Vice President Kyle Baltic's recent analysis diving into the question, "Is Florida's housing market in trouble?" a question on the minds of many, scan the QR code on the screen to access. Now to address another hot topic, inflation. Inflation is a big point of concern for businesses and consumers, and we track the inflation rate at the national and regional level on the Florida Scorecard. Inflation increased unexpectedly this month at all regional levels. Right now, the national inflation rate is 3.5%, and it gets hotter as you narrow down closer to the Sunshine State. The southern region's inflation is 3.8%, and the two MSAs that are tracked, Tampa and Miami, have significantly higher inflation. Miami actually has the highest metro area inflation in the country. The unexpected increase in inflation this month was led primarily by increases in energy prices. In previous months, the inflation rate for energy has actually been negative. Prices were lower than the year before. But this month, energy costs are much higher. Housing inflation consistently leads all the major categories. And in Miami-Fort Lauderdale alone, housing inflation is 6.7%. Let's now shift our focus to consumer sentiment. Consumer sentiment gives us insight into how Floridians feel about the state economy, giving businesses and decision makers a gauge on how Florida's consumers may interact with the economy. Consumer sentiment declined in March, which means that Floridians' economic outlook was more negative in March than it was in February. This is likely due to that higher anticipated inflation that we have seen. Even with this decline in consumer sentiment, Floridians still have a more positive view on the economy overall than they did this time last year. Florida's annual and monthly international trade data was recently released, and there are upward trends in Florida's exports and imports. Annually, there was an increase of 0.5% in imports and an increase of 1.7% in exports in 2023. The latest monthly data shows larger year-over-year growth of 9.7%, evidence that 2024 could be a year of even steeper upward trends in Florida's exports. For more information on strategies and recommendations to enhance Florida's trade industries, Check out our Trade and Logistics 2030 report by scanning the QR code on the screen. As we continue to work collectively to secure Florida's future and the path to prosperity for all Floridians, we hope that you and your team are making plans to join us for our upcoming Solution Summits in May and June. To stay up to date on the metrics that matter to securing the future of Florida as soon as they are released, there are a couple of ways you can stay connected. Follow at Florida BTN on Twitter, where updated figures and accompanying analysis are tweeted instantly. Also, be sure to check the floridascorecard.org on a regular basis. Updated metrics are added as soon as available to help Florida leaders lead. The Florida Scorecard and our team's accompanying research and analysis on these metrics are made possible by the leadership of the Florida Chamber Foundation's Community Development Partners. If you have any questions regarding the topics covered today or the work of the Florida Chamber Foundation, please reach out to me through the information on the screen. From everyone at the Florida Chamber, thanks for tuning in for another update on the metrics that matter as we work to move Florida to a top 10 global economy by 2030.